morning, everybody. And Pan is here with Mama today. Both of them gone to Humayun's tomb. And what did they see there? So, Pan sees somebody with a new instrument and asks his Mama, what is this? So she says, this is a dholak. And there is somebody playing a beautiful song on the dholak. And then he goes a little ahead and there's a man sitting with another instrument and he is just holding it and Pan watches it with wonder. He goes a few steps ahead and there is a man sitting there with a turban. It seems that he's not from anywhere in Delhi, but he seems to have come from somewhere else and he's playing an instrument like this. And Pan keeps looking very carefully. Then there's somebody coming and he gave him a beautiful cone. So Pan looked at it and said, oh wow, this looks like a cone that my teacher taught me. And then what does he see? He sees peanuts inside it. And he tells his Mama, I didn't know that peanuts are sold like this. And suddenly he sees his Mama having tea from this beautiful earthen pot. She says this is the kulhar because different things are there in our culture. Old things, there are musical instruments, there are different ways to eat, there are different ways to drink and to understand this wonderful heritage cycle. So I have to show off my virtual background before I take it off. So understanding this beautiful cycle, we have this beautiful young conservation architect, Nitya with us. A very warm welcome from Pan, the Mama and our whole Square Panda team, Nitya. A very warm welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, no, for us, I think it's so important that, we interact with young people who are actually making a difference. I think that's the wonder of what we want to create. So this little butterfly that I have in color, Nitya, is the color, the energy that I see in the youth that is coming back into our country. And we have very consciously invited young people as Square Panda, the team and the leader of Square Panda decided that he wants to make a community of different kinds of people and take it back to foundation and early years. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, you're a conservation architect. I know architects who make these fancy buildings. I know architects who design homes. But conservation architecture is something little different. So you give me your first memories of falling in love with these monuments and buildings.
Like you said with the story about the pandas, I think it's like a combination of so many things, heritage. And so even when I travel with my parents or when we go on vacations and all of that, like we always sort of look at, like you said, we look at the music, we look at the food, and we also look at the buildings. And for me, buildings are an important part. And one of my earliest memories that I have is of the Golconda Fort in Hyderabad, which is where I grew up in Hyderabad. And we would visit with our parents. If anyone visited, we would take them to see the fort. And it's such like that fort has so much like engineering sort of like a marvel of engineering as well as being a heritage site. So I remember we would go stand in one corner and there were bats in that room. But if you whispered into one corner, you could hear it in the other corner. And that was just even worth being around bats. And then there was this when you clap and it echoes upstairs, so you know that someone has entered the castle, even if you're all the way up in the castle. And like I think that was some of the things that I remember most vividly is the Golconda Fort in Hyderabad. And then yeah.
No, so this is also something which I sometimes feel that when today I see a lot of parents taking children to these places, a lot of it is based on just photography. We are not really teaching children the wonder of the place, maybe the stories of the place, or so did you as a child kind of read up, or did your parents take you there and actually talk about it, tell you Details about the place, or how did it all kind of start? Tell me.
I think it was more of a like very basic what they do for tourists sort of thing. So if we would go to a new city, we would always be very aware of what is the food we need to eat and all of that. And whenever we would go to a site, we would try to get a guide, so someone who could explain to us what was happening, or if there was things written about the site, then my parents would read them and explain to me what was happening there. But we would always try to figure out, even now that we're older, I think if we go somewhere and we're not sure what's happening, we just open our phones and Google it and we try to get as much context as we can. But I think it's
Ah.
very important to know the stories.
Yeah, to know the stories. I think that whole wonder that. So for me, when I invited Nitya to come on to the show today, I also wanted you to have a thought on even a profession like an architecture can have so many parts to it. Like imagine. So Nitya, when you choose, this is also something which is a little different from the cultural part of it. But when you chose to go into this specific, area of conservation, what was the general reaction that you see around? How did you, first of all, why did you do this, to actually go into conservation? And secondly, what was the reaction of people to this decision of yours?
So I think the simple answer to why did I go into conservation is just that I really like old buildings. I think that's the simplest answer that I have. I really enjoy, like in conservation architecture, a large part of what we do is try to understand what has happened to the building over the years. How was it built? How was it changed? Why was it changed? What were the factors that led to different stages of that building? So I think that I found really exciting, and I wanted to know more about that. And now that I'm in, I work in Jaipur now, and now we're working on old cities. So it's just that, but on a larger scale. So sort of trying to figure out all of this, but in like an interconnected network of so many different things, and how to. I think the biggest challenge that is sort of interesting now is how to balance heritage and the modern day world. How to make it relevant today without making it something that's just heritage, like not just a museum. Like it has to be something we can relate to. I think that's the challenge that I really want to address.
Oh, okay. So would it, now of course, once the pandemic is over, I mean, right now we won't, I mean, it's just the middle of the, we still don't have children out. But if children can come out, what is it that, can be done to make them a little more interested in these places? Like you are now taking care of a whole, a whole city. So if I say that, okay, tomorrow I'm going to send you 200 little children with their teachers, of course, not to for you to babysit them, but what would you take them to see? These are 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 3 and 4 are a little young, but the slightly older ones, like maybe upper kindergarten, class one. What is it that you would take them through to keep this wonder going and growing?
So I think this sort of like I want to start the answer for this by that heritage cycle that you had shown. So the heritage cycle basically teaches us about how to engage people with heritage. Once they start understanding it, valuing it, caring about it, like how people can get involved in heritage. And I think with children, it's more of a challenge because you can't just tell them, this is old and it's important. So it needs to be something that's relatable to them. So I think one of the examples that I have for a very successful way that we can do this is while I was working in Hyderabad, we actually had this heritage walk for a group of students who had come to visit the site. And they were so attentive. They had so many questions. They wanted all kinds of details, political details. They wanted the like religious history. They wanted to know a little bit about the economics. So very basic, but they just wanted to understand like how the dynasty progressed in the site that we were looking at and all of that. And so I was very impressed at the questions they had, but then after that I realized that they were doing this because they wanted to then explain it to tourists. So the children came, they spent half a day with us trying to understand everything, and then they spent half a day explaining it to people. So they really had to understand it. I think that was a great way to
Okay,
engage
okay.
children, is exactly enjoy. So it
So,
could be anything.
yeah, so this is something which I found really interesting that, when you take children to a place and suppose you have, like, this is your own city, let's just say my city has a heritage site, has a beautiful building. So when somebody comes and we take the children out, do we involve them and tell them that now you need to read about it and keep it ready, so that when so and so comes, we will take them out and you explain it to them. So maybe we can't do it at the level of a big school, but for each person, like I remember when even the children, Tisha was small, so we would tell her that you have to take so and so, and you have to show them around. So what happens is that every time she goes, she checks out on things, she checks out on a story, and then loves to show it off. So I think that's a really nice idea. And I think as parents watching and as teachers who are watching, please suggest this as an activity to go home, so that the child actually enjoys this lovely journey to understanding their own, what is there around them. You don't have to have 100 things, but some things we can very very easily take forward to the children. So that also, another one thing is there, that even as adults, do you find people really respecting the environment around and understanding it, or do we need to start with the adults as well?
I think it needs to be a combination. Maybe it can be like a family activity that everyone sort of gets more sensitized. I think the problem, that my understanding is that the problem is that there's not, in many cases, there isn't an ownership. Like you don't feel like the heritage belongs to you. You just look at it as something else, like an external factor. So I think that for adults and children both, like once you start realizing that heritage belongs to all of us and it's not just something that we're studying, it's not just an academic thing. I think that's what's important.
The when we're talking about the new education policy, a lot of people are talking about it, interpreting it, and many times they have mentioned the fact and the importance of keeping this whole wonder of what you teach the children in history come alive in real life. you know Even if we begin really early, like this program is for children with foundation, but imagine if these little children have never visited any of these places, how are
Yeah.
we going to suddenly pop up and say, oh, let's get them interested now? It's never going to happen, right? So small outings, teachers and parents, a little bit of a virtual tour these days, giving them, don't tell them that this is the name of the building, but give them a story with it, give them a sense of wonder with it.
Yeah.
Remember, I visited one of the sites that Nitya was there, the Qutub Shahi tombs, and she took me to one little building, and it had a kind of a howdy, a small tank. And she explained to me how the hot water came there, and by the time she finished the explanation, I was already imagining a princess sitting in the howdy, warm water coming in, steam coming out. So, and it was in shambles, let me tell you, that whole building was a complete shambles. But just the wonder of what she was saying was helping me to understand. So, create that wonder. I think that's one lovely thing to talk about. Another thing I thought was that, suppose we just talk about definition of cultural heritage. What all is it that you would talk to us about, Nitya?
I think it's so many things, like you said, like the place that we went with the tanks and all of that, like that is also a part of the cultural heritage. There can be so many things. There are traditions, there are like
Your
traditions
your voice is
that you may have in
Nitya.
your house. It may be something that happens in
Your
your
voice is
city.
break.
There are so
Uh,
many things that we can
Nitya,
relate to cultural heritage in
can
say
you
think
check
of
your
like or like maybe Charminar in Hyderabad. So for
Nitya?
a lot of people,
Your voice, we can't hear you very clearly. There is a gap, a lag coming. So if you can just check your
oh,
connections before you go ahead, because you're telling us things and we are kind of missing out words.
oh, is it better now?
I think so. Yes, it is better. Because suddenly you're freezing and we can't hear you very well. Right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So, can you repeat what you just said? Because we missed a part of that.
Yeah. So I was just saying that in cultural heritage there are so many different things that we can look at. It's not just like the landmarks in a place. It's not like if you come to Hyderabad, it's not just the Charminar. And like it's so much more than that. It can be traditions that you have at home with your family. It can be something that your city does as a festival. It can be like the local food, language, music. So many things sort of define the space and like your heritage and like where it comes from. And it can be so many, it can even be handicrafts. For example, if you remember when we were walking around in Jaipur, you saw the Thateras and you said Thursday Thatera. It just needs to be something that you can relate to and that makes you
Yes.
think of the place. So now you'll never forget that there's a traditional craft there where they do Thatera work in Jaipur. So it's just one of
Yes.
those things that sticks with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
It
I
can be
think,
anything. Yeah.
yes. So it could be like what Nitya is also saying is that I think different flavors, different ways of looking at the city. We now look at the more trendy things, the ones that are present, malls, shopping places. So a little bit of a traditional tour with children helps. Food and flavors are part of the cultural heritage, the whole thing. And Nitya, what I want to also to ask you is that as you handle monuments, you handle architecture, you handle the buildings, what is it that you feel we need to tell children at a very young age to help them that when they walk into these places, they respect them? Because we see a lot of, so what is it that can we do to maybe make them feel that ownership, that this is mine, I mustn't spoil it?
I think this is something I strongly believe in, and I've sort of mentioned it already. But I think that once we're able to make children believe that it belongs to them, like the historic everything, the historic environment basically belongs to all of us. And it's our responsibility to keep it alive because the people that built it are not here to protect it anymore. So now it's a responsibility on all of us. So I think once, like even history, like we study so much history, but we don't really understand it. Like it's sort of like still a foreign concept to a lot of us. I mean, for me, I'm a conservation architect, and even for me, like history and dates are very difficult to retain until I relate it to something tangible that I've seen or somewhere that I've been or a story that I've heard that I could remember. So I think that once we start integrating it into the lives of children more rather than just like something in a history textbook, I think that they'll have like a pride and sense of ownership by themselves. And then I think now more and more people are becoming more sensitive on how to protect heritage.
Yes.
Like people are treating their heritage much better. And so I think children will see that also. Even in India, there's been a large change in the past few years, and heritage is being treated with a lot more respect. So I'm sure that in the coming few years, the children will be the ones who are enforcing protection of our heritage.
Yeah. So and also what it's very interesting that I see a lot of youth now visiting, the kind of outings, the kind of, so young parents slowly starting to take interest. Another very interesting thing that I thought, I don't know, this is something because you're going to take care of, getting a whole city into a form and shape. Do you feel at some point of time the way these places are set up, they are not child friendly at all? There is no, when the children visit, they really are very, very adult. So, what do you think could be one way to, or maybe a couple of ways to make these children, want to go and explore these places with their parents?
I think it's
I mean,
important to have
we
some.
this whole, yes,
I think some activities are important for
yeah,
children to do, something that they can get there and do to like help them engage with the site more. So maybe like if it's a slightly older set of children, then like a photography competition where they try to capture like a new part of the building and understand it. Or maybe even I don't know how to make this fun because we've had a lot of boring exercises like this in school is write about what you saw. But like a more fun version of that or draw something that you really like. And also like I think it's more important for us to have guides and signages that are more oriented towards children. Like we need to have a simpler way of explaining a lot of things to children
yeah,
when they come there.
yeah. Yeah, I think that, and then like this particular book that was gifted to me by Nitya herself many a few years back actually. It's a beautiful book. I realized that, imagine I have not read it the way I should have. So this is another sense. There is more and more resource like this available, right, Nitya?
Yeah, there is a lot more that is available now.
Historical places do we, in terms of activity books, ask them if these resources are there, because these are a part of the people who are conserving these sites. Like, this is by that group. So if there is, and this is such a beautiful investment into what you want your children to learn, because it's about a particular place they have visited. So I think that's a beautiful thing. There's another thing that we were discussing just before the show started, was that how do people, where there is no commercial or tourist access, what can people who own these things do? So I thought we could talk about that also.
Yeah, so I was telling you about the doors open days concept that I've seen in the UK while I was studying there. And that's something I think that would be really beneficial to families, children, adults, all kinds of people. So this is actually, it's a concept where there are a couple of days in the year where you open up your heritage properties to the public. So if you live in a Haveli, for example, you can let people come into the courtyard, see how people live in that space. Or if it's a religious building like a mandir or a masjid or a church or any of these things, you let people come in, you tell them about your faith, you tell them about the building, you explain it to more people, so that it becomes more relatable. Like even here, like you may drive past a building every day, but you don't actually know their story. So if they put up a poster saying, today is an open day, so please come in and see, you would love to go and find out. And then, like, once you drive past it every day, you tell more people about it, and the awareness just keeps growing. So it's quite a simple thing. Even in like Jaipur, for example, some of the houses that are close to tourist sites or that are on the routes of heritage walks, they let people come in, they serve them some lassi or some sharbat, they talk to people. I think that's the most important thing, is to engage with the local community and understand how they live, because that's what heritage is in that place.
Yeah,
So I think
so
things like this are
yes,
something that we should encourage.
encourage. And once we've talked about it, maybe if there is a place around us as teachers, as parents, maybe we knock the door. One says, open the door. I would say, maybe when we get this idea, we may just knock the door and say, can we show this to our children? Also, a lot of talk during this entire digital lockdown, there's been a lot of talk about holding on to traditions, holding on to, certain, because in every place, these buildings, these monuments actually can become such beautiful places of social interaction. And if we teach children responsibility, we as adults are responsible, I think we will treat them little more than a picnic spot.
Yes, definitely. I mean, they can also be a picnic spot, but we should understand the significance.
Yes, and we were also discussing that during these times of when the children are going to go back, we are hoping that times open up and we can travel and we can. Another thing very important during this entire planning of what we are doing is to get them to feel the flavors of the place. What Nitya was talking about, the flavors could be just the food, the music, the and that part I don't see very aware, but children very aware about these days. Do you agree with that? That when children come to you, many of them are just not aware of these basic things.
I definitely agree. I think that's important. And I also think it's more fun. You know, if you visit a new place and then you get to know the place and then you get to know the place,
Your voice is breaking again.
I say
Could you just repeat what you said, because your voice is breaking up? Or maybe you can shift to the hotspot. Maybe just see if you can shift and have a better. do it patiently. There's no say while you're setting yourself up. I'm going to read a very beautiful part of this. Um, I was looking at this lovely activity book, and the book has tales of the buildings, that this building was for this, and what is the name of the building, and how each person actually works on buildings. So even if you just very patiently read 2 pages to a child before going, and then it's just this wonder that they create. So you go there, bring the book back, and never forget to take your children back there if possible, because they'll go back with better perspectives. In fact, after reading this, I'm going to go and see the tomb all over again. Nitya, is your voice better? Can we just connect with
I think it should be better now.
yeah, yeah. So I'm just listening to some comments that saying that it's sad that we see people, writing on walls, ruining them. Just, are there any legal rules against this? Is there anything legal that says that this is a offense or not? Nitya? Is there something like?
There definitely is. I think a lot of sites enforce their own rules, and there are different rules for different kinds of sites. So the ones that are owned by the central government, the state government, but they are all legally protected, and it is an offense to graffiti the walls. And I mean, it's a moral offense, honestly, like more than anything. Like that's what we need to, like it's just a wrong thing to do is what we need to enforce. Like some people not only write on the walls, but they like sort of scratch the plaster out of the walls, or they try to carve on the stone.
Yeah.
And some of those things are irreparable. Like they've been there for 400, 500, 600 years, and they don't need to know what you are feeling that day.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. And I think all of us, if we kind of put our head into this and say, like for example, we were at Jodhpur, and there was this lovely festival that they used to have, which was in the evening. It was a festival for adults. In the morning, they would do everything for the children. The music would be for the children, the puppeteers would be for the children, they would be. So I think this is also something which schools, perhaps once the this whole situation is different, we should start collaborating with these places. Do you think that would help?
I definitely think that would help. I think that it would be so much nicer if people went for these events as families, and both the parents and children could engage and like learn from the different types of entertainment there are. It's also very good for the performers, I think, to have a
Yes.
larger audience base, and I think that would be really nice.
In fact, I was just coming to the fact that, if we don't now save the folk and the heritage connected, we may not have folk artists left after a couple of years, because folk is something that goes from word of mouth to word of mouth. There is nothing written down, right? And if we don't conserve it, and we don't value it, and we don't nurture it, I see earlier these folk artists were nurtured by the kings, the judgments as they call it. But today it's left to us as individuals to actually nurture this whole cultural connect. Another thing that I thought I must ask you, because Jaipur is so rich with the art and craft. So do you see places where a little bit of art is also being taught to children? I mean, is that also one kind of an option? And is it being done around your the heritage site? Is that what you're going to think of doing?
It's definitely something we're thinking of doing, and not just for children but for everyone. Actually, Jaipur is a unique example of this, and I would say like one of the most like if we have such a great opportunity in Jaipur to do this, is because when the city was planned, it was planned with neighborhoods and mohallas and rastas for the craftsmen. So there's like a maniharon ka rasta, which means like the people that have put little jewels on the jewelry. There's like a khazane walon ka rasta where they make statues. So in Jaipur, they actually have entire streets and neighborhoods earmarked for this kind of thing. And it's so fascinating to walk around them. So even if you just go to the rasta, and there are people still there, like even today, you can see them practicing the craft, and a lot of them are very happy to talk about what they're doing and explain it to you. So I think that that is like a real opportunity that we need to tap into, is to understand these things for ourselves as tourists and as well as for the people who are doing it, so that they can keep their craft alive.
So anybody who's watching us today and is going to visit Jaipur, please look for these rastas. Don't look for just the very, touristy places, but explore these wonderful, stories and things about the place. And I think that whole wonder of what we can create for children. Nitya, we were talking a lot of times. We are having webinars and we are having discussions about the new education policy, and a lot of us are wondering how is this going to happen, how is that going to happen. So we've actually had 3 sessions on just cultural heritage and conservation, and because I feel that it is so important as a topic. So we had one we spoke about with the entire global thought process. Then one we had a speaker who actually has traveled the whole world, to 45 countries in the shortest time possible. And I thought that this part about inviting you to come was so that there are two things. There were two strong reasons why I invited you. One is to help parents also and the teachers to understand that children can choose very, very different careers, and the wonder of that career can just come from, like you said, a simple love for buildings. We talk about multiple intelligence, we talk about the developmental domains of children, but if we meet somebody like that, it convinces us that it works. So, as a professional conservation architect who's traveled at such a young age, such a big part of the world, what would your messaging be to people who want to listen or think that tomorrow their children can grow up and take this on as a profession? What would you say?
I mean, I would just say that if it's something that interests you, or if it interests your child and they want to make a difference in something like this, then I would totally encourage it. Actually, my parents have been so supportive of this from the beginning. Ever since I got into architecture, and then like just I mean, I just like old buildings and I managed to get into it, and they've supported me from the beginning. And it's been so challenging, and I've learned so much from it. Even I mean, not just in terms of my career, like I've learned so many personal skills, and like I've developed as a person in a lot of ways because of conservation. And it's not a challenge that you get somewhere else. So I always think that if you're doing something different, if it's something that's happening for the first time in your city or in your country, and you're trying to establish a new practice, like you learn so much from it, that I would definitely encourage you to try if you can.
Yeah, so just see this, dear teachers and parents. We talk about life skills. We talk about connections with, daily living. And sometimes when we meet, a few days back, we had a lovely team that were talking about social emotional development, Nitya. And today, without really planning it, you're actually talking about life skills, about understanding the life of maybe. So if you say life skills, I remember there's this whole conversation you had about the artists, the people who come and work on your sites, their
Yeah.
children, their education. I remember you took a set of flashcards and said, I want to teach them. So can you just talk a little bit about this human element of this conservation of our beautiful heritage? What do you?
I think from the artists and the craftsmen and all that I've worked with, I've learned so much. So while I was working in Hyderabad, there were people who had come here from Hyderabad, of course, but there were people from different parts of the state. There were people from Rajasthan, from Bengal, and I learned so many things about so many different places. So I think that
All right, we just wait for Nitya's.
artisans from different places.
You'll have just repeat what you said, Nitya. We missed what you said.
Sorry, I think my internet just gave out.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, don't worry. That's all right.
So I think that you learn so much from artists and artisans who have come from so many different places. So even in Jaipur, for example, there are a lot of people who have been living there for so long, and there are things that they teach you that none of the history books can. Like you go there and you try to figure out the history of the place. You're trying to figure out the roads, and someone who's just sitting in some shop will tell you कि ये 12 भाइयों का चौक है or something like that, and then you go from there and you start researching a little more. So I think it's so important, the human connection, especially in a cultural context. Like that's the most important thing, because a lot of things are passed down by word of mouth,
Yeah.
and it's so important to learn context. I think it sensitizes you to so many different things when you try to do something like that.
Yeah, I think this is one very important aspect of what we are trying to bring into education, where it is just not learning history and buildings and kings and dynasties and the date of I mean it's about getting that wonder, going down there and talking to people. Nitya, before we wind up, I want you to tell. I mean, just at for the first instinct, a story of conservation that has touched your heart. Any one story during these last few years that you feel you want to share with us?
I think all stories of conservation touch my heart, very honestly. I
Yeah,
think
but if
it
I
would
have to tell you to tell us one story, that one part, one thing that you did, one wonder in your own life, what would it be?
so
It
it
could
would
be a
be
place anywhere in the world, anything that you want to share with us.
So I think it would be at the site where I used to work in Hyderabad. So there's this, it's called the Buddy Bowlies, which is basically like a big step well there. And over the years, like so many things had happened to it. It was basically a water body that had been added on to, and then the water channels had been blocked, and a lot of changes had been made to it over the years. And we had a very bad monsoon in Hyderabad a couple of years ago, which actually washed away one of the walls entirely. So the entire structure, and it's huge, it's like 60 feet deep into the ground. Like one entire side of it was gone. And then they built it back up. So they built a foundation, they tested the foundation, they built up the whole wall, they let it set. It was a very slow process over a couple of years. And then finally, once it was done, and the water came back, and the fish came back, and the turtles, and this is like in the middle of a heritage site. So it was so beautiful. Top, and we're actually able to use that water for more gardening work and heritage work and all of that. I think that was one of the most inspirational examples that I've seen.
So, I just feel during my, Nitya, I was sitting here with a whole list of webinars that we've conducted, nice big list of them. And I was thinking to myself that perhaps in this whole journey that we've shared with these wonderful audience people who join us very regularly has been the immense learning from each speaker. So when I finish my session with you all, I sit and make my notes, and I have three little small diaries full of them. There'll be a story from you. There'll be, because when I design for little children, I have never put a building into my course. After speaking to you, the first thing I'm thinking of, I must have a page that says Know My City. Can I have something which, so I'm going to share one very quickly. This is, of course, Sejal and our wonderful team of people who designed it. Nitya designed this for us, and she said you could help your, children, you yourself could fill this up. Small things about what's the language, what's your clothing, what's the food, and draw a monument from your city, your festival, your tradition. Just think about it and fill this up. So what happens is when you actually, just write this down, it'll help you to consolidate the smaller things. What Nitya was saying, maybe there's an old building which you noticed and you have never been there, right? So I went to one of the places that I travel every year, Nitya, and it's like the old Haveli of my mom. And when I went this time, it was broken down, And I think for a second, say, I don't live there. I have no real. But when I saw it broken down and this huge thing come up, I said, oh my God, the beauty of it's gone, right? So I suppose that's the way we want people to be, to just connect from the heart. And Nitya, what would your bye-bye message to us be as a conservation architect in one of the most prestigious World Heritage sites? So, one little message from you for all of us.
My message would be just figure out what your heritage is, what you can do to protect it, what part of it excites you enough to want to protect it, and just let's save as much of it as we can.
Wonderful. And thank you so very much for being a part of this journey. Like I said, very, very, for us, this whole last 18, 15 weeks have been a lot of youth. a lot of young people have come onto our platform, you know. So thank you for taking out the time, and I hope you felt happy being with us.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you, Sejal. And I think we'll wind up and we'll work out. I also wanted to ask the audience if you can just put down what else do you want us to do for you? Any topics, any suggestions? We would love to kind of work around it and come back to you on it. Right? So Nitya, thank you so very much, and bye bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Square, square, panda.